Hi, I'm Ashley and this is my question 7 evaluation video.
At the start of the AS Media course we did a skills audit, and that was really useful to see which areas of improvement we needed to turn weaknesses into strengths, and mine was my confidence with Adobe. I hadn't really used Macs for anything apart from the internet or Microsoft Office, so InDesign was a really good way to start a basic foundation of knowledge that would gain my confidence with Adobe. And I think for my student magazine this was an appropriate choice of software to use because of how simple it was, and it allowed me to quickly pick up the tools that I would need to later go on to use Photoshop for my music magazine.
Here is my student magazine front cover, and although it seems basic and simple and the layout is a little bit amateur, I am really pleased that I used InDesign first because it allowed me to develop for when I went to use Photoshop. And as you can see, there is a real big difference in these two covers. This one here has a sleeker design, the layout is much neater, and I think it has more of a feel of a real media product. I think Photoshop allowed me to use a variety of tools in a more effective way than InDesign did, so I'm pleased that I moved on to Photoshop for my music magazine. Overall, comparing both covers, I think my student magazine is a good example that I wouldn't have been able to produce such a high standard of work for my music magazine had I not have started on InDesign. I think just starting simple was the best way to go, and then progressing onto something that was more challenging for me to do. For my contents page, the main difference between my student and my music magazine was how conventional I chose to be. For my student magazine here you can see that I've used a lot of columns, squared images, text boxes and layouts of text that relies on lines. I think this works well because it's conventional, but for my music magazine I think this is better. It still features the same squares of images, I've still got the lines of text that are all neatly in columns, but it's just a bit more original, and I think for my genre of music magazine this works really well. I wouldn't have been able to be this creative had I not have experimented first with my editor's note. I created this because I had more time than I needed, so I just experimented on InDesign when doing my student magazine on the layout of text and pictures, which meant when it came to choosing my double page spread design layout I had more of an idea of what I wanted to create. I chose the column here and the squared images because of the software I was using. I felt it made the most of Photoshop as I edited the colour schemes of 3 of the images shown here using the tools. I wouldn't have been able to do this on InDesign, so I think it was an appropriate choice to use Photoshop for my double page spread, front cover and contents page.
Okay, the main thing that I think was a challenge for me at the start of the course was the fact that I didn't know how to use Macs. I didn't really know anything about Apple softwares, like and iPods, pretty much all I knew. So we did a skills audit and I thought, what is it that's holding me back? And the main thing was Photoshop. I was really worried about using a completely new software. I'm a PC user and that really threw me. So when we did the student magazine, I didn't want to try and complicate it with software I didn't know how to use, so I used InDesign, and although it was a good program to use, it did all the basic functions. I knew how to place, edit text, present it and everything. It did look quite basic and it did look quite amateur, and then when I look back I thought maybe I do need to learn how to use Photoshop. So when it came to doing my music magazine, that was the main thing that I was focusing on. I didn't want to complicate it by using InDesign and Photoshop. I just wanted to kind of break any kind of issues that I had with it and become more confident in it, make my weakness into a strength and develop it. So by the end of the course I could say that looking back on my skills audit, it is something that I have improved on. So I did use it. I found it actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I learned how to use all the editing tools, like everything down the side. I just learned and picked it up really quickly. So that was something I was really proud of. And I think as an outcome, in comparison to my student magazine, there was a real difference. And there was a clear sense of progression from when I first started out using basic tools to how it looks now. I think it looks cleaner, it's neater presented, the clarity of images is beyond I can compare. If I was to go back and do it again, I don't think I would use Photoshop from the start, although I do prefer it. I think I needed to slowly progress and work through and try the different softwares and become more comfortable with different softwares and just experiment with technology a bit more. And I think using InDesign really helped my understanding of Photoshop, because I did begin a basic foundation of knowledge with how to use Max and the different functions and all the programs. But I think having the difference in how they both look is something that I can reflect on and evaluate and monitor my progress better. I think if I just started with Photoshop, I wouldn't have as much development to look back on and show that I've made this improvement and that I've started to build more from when I first started the course. I think my progression to the full product has come from having no confidence in it, and I think using different things has helped so much. And although my music magazine does look a lot better than it would have done if I'd used InDesign, I think InDesign has been a real help. So I think everything would stick the same, and that's about it really. So